Now, after my comments, then Uday, it is your baby. You have to carry it. Yeah, friends, I welcome you to this session on media entertainment, creative industries, catalyst to revive economic growth. This is a part of the second Indo-US Services Summit organized jointly by the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce and the Services Export Promotion Council. Media entertainment is one of the most significant and important sessions that we have tried to put in place here. We have some very worthy, eminent panelists who are experts in their respective fields. I am here as the summit chair to give some introductory remarks, you see. First introductory remark is to introduce the session moderator, that is Mr. Uday Singh. He is the managing director of the Motion Pictures Association, that is the India office, responsible for promoting and protecting the commercial and creative interests of Hollywood studios in India, as well as of those local screen communities in this capacity. Now, before taking this role, he was the CEO of PVR Pictures, where he orchestrated a partnership with Summit Entertainment and Hyde Park. He established the distribution across TV, new media, publishing, and gaming platforms. As CEO of PVR, he supervised the production of a slate of Indian films. And then he was also vice president of Columbia TriStar Motion Pictures. Uday was managing director of Sony Pictures Entertainment Operations in India for 13 years. So here is someone who knows this field inside out. But speaking from my personal experience, pandemic has brought me very, very close to the entertainment industry, you see. During those periods, now of course there is a dilution in that, but earlier when the COVID-2 was at its peak, there was nothing else to do except, you see, to switch on your television and watch some of the most interesting and very educative, informative movies and programs which were offered by the electronic media and the channels, you see, which are there. I think that helped people in a very big way so far as mental fatigue was concerned. I can tell you I was used to appearing in the courts every day and I enjoyed it. But then suddenly there was a hiatus, there was nothing. And on the video, on the laptop, we used to appear in the court, but that is no substitute. Therefore, afternoon, I used to just, you see, switch on my television and watch some of the very interesting movies and all that because it helped in soothing the nerves during the pandemic. That was a big contribution made, you see, by this industry, whether it was electronic, and through electronic, it was the films also which were being shown, which possibly we had not seen. During the last 10 days or so after Dilip Kumar passed away, I've watched to see so many movies of Dilip Kumar which I had not seen earlier. So these are the your contributions, I think, for the mental wellness of the society. You people have helped in a big way, in a great way, and we hope that you will continue to do so. So with these remarks, I hand over, you see, the proceedings of this last and very important session. Uh, I hand over to Mr. Uday Singh, Managing Director, Motion Pictures Association. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your introductory remarks. And I'd get straight to it. During the pandemic, I was also promoted as a chief entertainment officer for my home, coming from this industry. So that kept me quite busy looking at the work. And I underscore what you just said, that I think the creative industries played a critical role during this period. And I think even beyond, they have a role to play as we hopefully hit the ground running and quickly get the economy started. The industry has the ability to get quickly back into production, because a lot of the products the films that were in the pipeline have a good chance to kind of take off very quickly. And it also has a signaling effect on the economy that, things are getting back to normal. So we hope that we'll be able to ride that out. The UN has also recognized this year and the creative economy by announcing that 2021 will be the year of the creative economy. So I think we have recognition even globally that this is a very important aspect. This industry also has the effect of a multiplier effect of other sectors also benefiting from what the film industry brings to the table. There was a whole idea of what happens, because when a film comes into a particular place, it's not just within the entertainment industry. Several other sectors get the benefit of it. So the direct and indirect impacts are significant. It also enlarges and helps the soft power of our country, as Indian films travel to about 200 countries and are recognized everywhere. So there's a huge benefit that we have that the industry brings, and a lot of people recognize us by our creative arts. The Parliamentary Standing Committee in a recent review report has said that for 1% that is saved in terms of in protection of copyright, it can add to 6.8% in terms of FDI that will come into the country. So it's a significant aspect that it brings to the table. I have a stellar panel here today with me. I have John Quebeca, who's from the US Embassy. He's a counselor for IP. And I think I would begin with him, segueing in from what I said, the role of IP and the importance of IP for the cultural and creative industries. How do you see it, especially coming out of this pandemic and during the pandemic? Your opening remarks, if you could share them with us.
Before you do that, I would like to extend a special welcome, to Mr. John Sebeka, being the worthy representative of the Embassy of the United States. I'm sorry I missed out while in my opening remarks, but we extend our heartiest welcome to you on behalf of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce and on behalf of the Services Export Promotion Council. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Sebeka. Thank you.
Thank you very much as well, and good evening and good morning to those of you joining from the U.S. I want to echo what Mr. Vashan and Uday has said, and that's the pandemic really tested us, and it's really been a challenging time, obviously from a public health standpoint, but it has also, and it has tested our resilience on many fronts. The ability to work while being surrounded by our loved ones who are also working or perhaps taking care of the family around us. And it has also tested our ability to participate in programs like this taking place simultaneously all over the world. Last week, I had 2 programs running in 2 different countries at the same time. But for me, I'm not sure about you, but it has really tested my ability to see how much content I can binge watch on TV, considering how much more content has become available online as a result of the pandemic that accelerated much of this growth in the sector. And when we think about other things the pandemic has done, it has brought about tremendous new innovations. Again, not just from a public health standpoint, but look at the platform that we're on today and think about all the enhancements online virtual platforms have made just since the pandemic started. Technical improvements that we don't see that have improved the way we communicate with each other and make our voices more clear and the videos less choppy, but also some fun improvements like being able to change your virtual background and have video playing in the background as well. All of this is a result of innovation and technology, and it all surrounds, in many respects, the U.S. media, the media and entertainment industry around the world. What I thought I would do today is talk a little bit about the role we play at the embassy. Obviously, I'm the intellectual property counselor for the embassy, so I think about intellectual property, patents, trademark, copyrights, and all the other forms of intellectual property on a daily basis, but also share some of the efforts that we take across the industry, across the embassy, to work with the media and entertainment industry. And this is in part because the US media and entertainment industry is very active in India. At the Foreign Commercial Service here at the embassy, we work extremely closely with the sector on a variety of fronts. We have service requests and do matchmaking with US and Indian businesses and help facilitate partnerships to bring media and entertainment content from the US into India, including OTT, producers, production equipment, et cetera, just really across the sector. And we also very actively listen to our stakeholders across the media and entertainment industry, and we advocate on their behalf with the Indian government on regulatory procedures to help address developments that might have serious or detrimental impact on consumers, as well as on industry stakeholders and investors in the sector. Now, for decades, many US companies have consistently played a role in building and advancing India's media and entertainment landscape. Estimates indicate that these media companies and studios from the US have invested billions of dollars in creating local content in more than 15 languages across 29 Indian states and have engaged over 900 million TV viewers, helping to give Indians a plethora of entertainment choices, not to mention helping to create jobs and contributing to the Indian economy. Many of these companies have long-term commitments and strong local presence in India. They played a key role in bringing latest technologies and best practices to the sector and contributing to the foreign direct investment inflow into the country. So I mentioned briefly, we do a lot of government-to-government advocacy as well. We work closely across industry sectors to advocate on public policy on their behalf to promote doing business in India and to streamline access to this important market. Through these efforts, we seek to encourage policies that stimulate growth, promote investments, and foster innovation, and that are equitable to all industries. And there's no question that the media and entertainment industry is a vital part of the economy, not just in the US, not just in India, but really around the world. And it intersects with many other industry sectors like information technology, digital transformation, e-commerce, cybersecurity, and even others that we never before thought of as a result of the pandemic. My colleagues and I work relentlessly on these and other issues to help ensure strong and vibrant media and entertainment industry, one that thrives, one that fosters growth, one that creates jobs, and one is increasingly global. I had mentioned the many different industries that the media and entertainment industry are a part of, but I thought I would highlight today India's cybersecurity industry because the cybersecurity service industry is rapidly growing in India as the country's digital economy and critical infrastructures continue to expand. And underpinning this, I thought I would take some time. I'll come back to cybersecurity in a minute, so from an intellectual property perspective, but I thought I would take a moment to turn on some thoughts on recovery, economic recovery, and some steps that we have taken in the US over the course of the pandemic. So the pandemic has shifted many activities, as we all know, online, and it has made more creators reliant on income from digital works. In 2020, the global pandemic impacted the theatrical and home and mobile entertainment, such as movie theaters and production studios, having to be temporarily closed. And coinciding with the pandemic was the emergence of new streaming video services from prominent studios from the US, such as Disney, Universal, Warner Brothers, and many others, joining and competing with other industries like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, as well as others from here in India. And what I thought I would do is just share some statistics on some of the impacts that we've seen as a result of the pandemic from a recent Motion Picture Association theme report. And in general, it shows that the theatrical home mobile entertainment market in 2020 experienced an 11% drop from 2019. And 7% of that 11% revenue decline was contributed to a drop in theatrical entertainment. Clearly, this drop was a direct effect of the pandemic, as was witnessed in markets around the world. In 2020, the entertainment industry asked Congress to help revive the industry, as did many other industries. And to date, US lawmakers have enacted 6 major laws amounting to over $5.3 trillion. And these laws aim to manage the pandemic and mitigate the economic burden on American businesses and families. This included the media and entertainment industry. For example, the Consolidated Appropriations Act in 2021, which is an amalgamation of numerous legislative measures, it further included stimulus measures to combat the coronavirus and the pandemic. The act also included some tax provisions to help the entertainment industry, like permitting immediate expensing of qualified production costs and other permissible expenses. In addition, the act provided several incentives for small businesses, such as for wage and leave credits, loan donation programs, and extended periods with which to the need to file tax returns and other important papers. Other areas that will help speed the recovery for the media and entertainment industry is to sustain an environment that mitigates the risks to businesses large and small. Unfortunately, the media and entertainment industry has been subject to counterfeiting and piracy of creative content, creating an enforcement landscape that deters piracy of copyrighted content. And what we want to do is create an enforcement landscape to deter piracy of copyrighted content and to ensure innovators, creators, performers, and producers are rewarded for their works, while at the same time ensuring such rewards that incentivize more investments into this key sector are made available. As we've discussed, due to the pandemic, content is increasingly more readily available online, making this content subject to piracy. Since my arrival here in India, I've worked very closely with several enforcement agencies across the country, taking steps to combat online pirated content. And one I just want to highlight is the Mumbai Cyber IP Crime Unit. We've worked very closely with them. We've had several meetings and also have had a best practices enforcement training program, not just for the crime unit in Mumbai, but for police and customs officials across the state of Maharashtra. And we look forward to doing more of that kind of work in the future and in the coming year. So in closing, as the IP counselor, I have to put a plug in for intellectual property being a driver for innovation. Intellectual property rights provide the legal basis for our innovation and creative economy. And throughout the pandemic, innovation has proved to be critical and essential in our recovery. In the creative industries, intellectual property is central to the business model that rewards and facilitates relationships and transactions between creators, such as the authors, composers, performers, publishers, music and audiovisual producers, broadcasters, and distributors of various works on electronic and other distribution platforms. And it is one of those things that we need to continue to work together. You mentioned the Parliament report coming out, raising some recommendations for the Indian government to take with respect to copyrighted works. We are monitoring this very closely and also having some discussions with our counterparts in the Indian government on these developments. And we look forward to continuing to work with our industry partners, such as those of you on the panel with me today, as well as those of you online, as we work together to create a system that benefits everyone. So with that, I look forward to our discussion and thank you for having me here today, and thank you to the IACC. back over to you, Uday.
Thank you, John. That was fairly comprehensive, and I think you are ideally placed to play that role of the bridge between us and the American, uh, government and the industry. With that, I'd like to move to industry, and I'd like to invite Vivek Krishnani. Vivek is the managing director of Sony Pictures, and if you've seen films like 102 Not Out and Padman, Vivek has been responsible for bringing them to us. Vivek has rebooted and relaunched the local language production program at Sony Pictures. And I think he's the right person to ask the next point to, is that where do we go from here? What do you think is the next steps ahead as we see the sector hoping to get a revival? Vivek, what are your
Thanks, thanks, Uday, and hi everyone. Since we're talking about the revival of the economy, first thing, let me just share some good news that the government has shared today, which is that their tax collection has been at an incredible high number. They've collected 4.13 lakh crores, which is 3 times of the Q1 first FY21, and it's 26.7% of FY22. A lot of this actually has been, driven by industries like banks, metal, and information technology. And fiscal deficit is at 18% of FY22 budget. So basically, the point I'm trying to make is that the economy is on an upswing, but our media and India entertainment industry is under renovation at the moment. The Indian film entertainment sector grossed about 191 billion rupees in 2019, and the earnings were poised to grow to an estimate of about 206 billion in 2020. But then, unfortunately, we all know what happened. The pandemic hit us, and it was a near washout year. In fact, the sector fell by 24% to about 1.38 trillion, which is about $18.9 billion. So in effect, taking us back to 2017 levels. The last quarter of 2020 showed a marked improvement in revenues, and we expect the M&E sector to grow at 25%, at about 25% in about 2022. The point I'm trying to make here is that the lockdown extensions have had a cascading effect, on our business and our ecosystem. And we are one of the largest filmmaking, film producing nations in the world. Which has currently left the exhibition sector in a limbo, and whilst at the same time accelerating the number of direct-to-digital movie releases on streaming platforms. The Indian film fraternity is trying to make earnest strides to get the badly hit exhibition sector up and running. It employs about 200,000 people directly and accounts for nearly 60% of film business revenues and the production business, and putting it back to its feet. But what is happening in the interim is speeding up a tectonic power shift of screens in the country's rupees 1.82 trillion media and entertainment landscape on the back of disruptive and engaging content. What we are seeing here is that the situation is actually, seeming to return to normalcy as cinema halls seem to be opening up. We have seen that 12 states, 13 states have given the go-ahead to open cinema halls. We are waiting on some clearances in Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, and obviously Kerala, which has been maximum hit. And the idea and focus right now is to get people back into cinemas as they resume operations, to win the consumer confidence and ensure that people feel safe coming back into cinemas. Whilst the exhibition sector has seen this kind of downturn, we've seen the digital side of the entertainment, grow significantly as well. But having said that, I think cinema is driven largely by theatrical. As we all know, the experience is something that every Indian, for us, cinema is religion and it's the favorite pastime. So going to a theater is something that all Indians across the country, on a weekend or even with their family, it's a family event. And I think going out to cinemas is something that they all want to do. So I think what we are looking at here is that, especially now as cinemas are opening up, people are getting vaccinated. Uday, I think there is a hope that people will start going back into cinemas. Also, what needs to be seen is the kind of content that is going to be put out there, because there is a huge, whilst the pandemic was on and the cinemas were shut, what's happened is that people have been exposed to various sorts of content from across the world. and they have now got used to watching different kinds of content in different languages with subtitles. So they are and therefore, what as content creators we are looking at very, very seriously is that how do we now create content that is going to be attractive for people to come back into cinemas, and not something that they can easily say, oh, we'll watch it on on an OTT platform. So as content creators, the biggest task that we have is to think about content, a shift in our content creation strategy. And as we see the films that are lining up right now, which is the big films that are waiting release over the last 18 months and that haven't released, we are hoping that people are going to be coming out and into cinemas, obviously with all the safety precautions in place, that people will come back into cinemas. And also with the fact that there is shoots that have started now and shoots that are currently underway. We see a whole lot of content coming, but as content creators, our focus has to be now as to what is the kind of content that will get people into cinemas, what is the kind of content that will work on OTT. And we're seeing that shift happen. We're seeing that people focusing on what is the content strategy that we need to look at as cinemas open up. And we also have seen that digital is growing significantly as well. So there is a lot more content coming people's way. So yeah, so I think we are there at that cusp of revival, Uday. And I think if there is no third wave that everybody is predicting, then the cinemas and our content industry is bouncing back for sure.
Thanks, Vivek. I think that's very heartening, and I think we can even see signs at the box office in the US, and also I think in China you've seen some numbers being fairly attractive. I think people do have that itchy feet effect, as you mentioned, and once the things are back in action and people are vaccinated, hopefully things will go back to the earlier levels. I would like to now turn to Dilip. You probably have been impacted the most. You oscillate between India and Los Angeles. You've probably been stalled for a while now, probably sitting in one location. And how has this impacted you, and how do you see it from here? How do you see things change, especially for foreign productions to come to India? Dilip, you're on mute. You'll have to unmute. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good morning from LA here. So yeah, I mean, very rightly said that this pandemic has really impacted producers like myself, who generally do all location filming, and our company On the Road India is basically involved with the larger production, bring them to India to various locations and stuff, and working other part of the world as well. But I've been stuck. I was stuck in India for almost a year and a half. This is the first time in last 30 years I didn't travel. I used to travel almost every second month. And finally, I'm back in Los Angeles. We, before the pandemic, actually, India was like doing very well. And we did a great film, Tenet, in Bombay, India, which was a great success. It was a great example with the effort of FFO and the Maharashtrian government and INB minister, everybody, coming together and trying to make example of like bring this big production and making it successful. And we were looking, very hopeful with bringing other productions as well. But come 2020, suddenly we all were shocked by this pandemic, and we thought it's going to be there for like few months and everything will be fine. And we had a lot of production. I had one beautiful German production in pipeline, and then, as Mr. Roy knows, that Disney was thinking to shoot next Indiana Jones. So, I mean, with this, all the plans failed. I'm like all over the world, like people were like, didn't know what to do. So it's really impacted very badly for the location filming, as we all talking about that, bringing new content, and everybody looking for a lot of content, and people while sitting at home consume a lot of content. So there's a big need of creating this very interesting content. But we are still dealing with this pandemic, and I see that people are trying to make an effort to, as Disney did, and we did the location scout, and we were about to start the pre-production, almost started the pre-production, and suddenly the second wave came. It was a huge loss for all the film people as well as the country, because it was such an iconic project which would have come. There's another project from Richie Mehta, my friend, who was bringing another production to West Bengal, which got stalled, and they are still waiting for. So similarly, there are many productions which are waiting for the window when this situation gets better in India and rest of the part of the world as well, because all the studios are very sensitive, and they should be, like going to any country where the cases are rising. I'm like, our government is making all the best effort trying to control it, but we all are facing the situation. Everybody's waiting and watching. We are really impacted quite a bit with this. A lot of people, I can say about the industry, lost big projects which were supposed to come to India and rest of the part of the world. So we are still waiting and watching. Hope the situation and the third wave doesn't come. And all these some projects gone to other countries where there were less cases and stuff. So probably we have lost those projects, but there are still other projects which are in pipeline. Hopefully the situation gets better, and we bring those big projects to India. You're on mute.
Thanks. Thanks for that. And I think, yes, I heard the whole Tenet story from you and how wonderful the experience was. And I think Vikram, who's also on our panel, played a stellar role in
Absolutely
hearing it and easing the whole process of filming here. With that, I'd like to move to Ashish. You've had, you have dealt with so many blockbusters. I felt I can't even keep count. From the Dhooms to the Tigers to Jab Tak Hai Jaan to Band Baja Barat. I think at YRF you had your innings, and then you moved to Netflix, and now you're at Laika. So what is your thinking once things are settling down? How you seeing the situation, and how quickly do you think we could be able to get back into production with Laika or with movies that might be in the pipeline? What are your views?
Thanks, Uday, and good evening, everybody. Well, everybody's already spoken a lot about how this entire pandemic situation has kind of transpired, but we all are very optimistic for the simple reason that even before the second wave hit us, there were a lot of films in the South that did really good business. So there was Master, there was Vakil Saab, there was a small film called Upena, and all these films kind of outperformed during the pandemic. So there is a lot of hope. And like you spoke earlier, there are films that have done tremendously well in China. Hi Mom, Detective Chinatown 3 have exceeded 800 million and 700 million in their respective markets. You also spoke about the films that have released in the US, Black Widow, Fast and the Furious. So there's a lot of hope. People psychologically are really tired sitting at home, and they want to step out and watch films. So we are really optimistic that if the third wave does not hit us and the vaccination drive the way it's going, there will be a follow-up of a huge audience, pent-up demand that will kick in once people start feeling a little secure. And I think we are just a quarter away from there. We have a huge lineup of films lined up in India, both on the Hollywood side, both on the regional side, both on the Hindi side. So as far as the exhibition sector is concerned, they'll have a constant supply of films back to back. In fact, the law of the jungle may prevail, sadly, and we'll have to really plan and schedule our releases well enough so that the producers can make some money. That is the concern now. It's not just the business, it's how we kind of, eat into each other's business. That's the worry right now. So we are hoping that that does not come into play, and we plan our releases pretty well so that everybody gets a chance to play in the theaters. As far as shoots are concerned, again, we were shooting earlier, and a lot of the shootings have already started. So again, we are very optimistic there because films are being shot with no major cases of COVID hitting those shoots currently as we speak. And biggest of films are being shot in the Mumbai market. Even at Laika, we are planning our films. We have shot a few films during the pandemic, and we are currently shooting for Ponniyin Selvan. That's a very big film being directed by Mani Ratnam. We are currently shooting it in Hyderabad, and we'll move to Madhya Pradesh and to some other states. So shootings are happening. It's a matter of time now there. 2 or 3 months more, and we'll be back on track. And like you all have been speaking, the creative industries are really important, not only due to what they bring on the table, its soft power, and the kind of image they create for our country abroad. I mean, in my travel, whenever I've traveled for my shoots in the 35 odd countries that we've shot in, I mean, everybody knows Bollywood. They know India probably as the land of snake charmers, but they definitely know about Bollywood. So they don't know the other side of India, actually. They've seen Slumdog Millionaire and they feel that India is just about slums and all of that. But now, thanks to our creative industry and with our films now being releasing on the OTT platforms, we reach 190 countries. So it's a very nice way of taking a culture out there also. So that's the other role that the creative industries have to play, and more so the content creators, to take India's culture to the 190 odd countries where the OTT platform stream, whether it's Amazon, Netflix, Hotstar, and the others. So to answer your question, highly optimistic about the business going forward, and we'll be back on track soon.
Just a quick follow-up to that, and like Vivek mentioned about audience preferences changing, do you expect your content also to be different?
Personally, Vivek has a valid point there, but the way this is going to pan out from a practical point of view, according to me, is a lot of the content is already ready, right? You can't change that. And that content will play out for the next year and a half. A lot of the actors are already committed to the next set of content or next film or the next web series that they wanted to shoot for. So that content is already ready based on the creative work that's happened 6 months back or maybe a year back. Nobody can change that again. What may happen is, like Vivek was saying, is that once the content is ready, the producers may decide to say, this is more fit for a direct to digital, because maybe it doesn't make sense to spend money on marketing and stuff like that. And so they may then approach the OTT players to buy them as a direct to digital. That may happen, and that will continue. And again, that's a demand and supply situation. So as long as the OTT players need that content, they will spend that extra money to buy, because otherwise they also have the option to let it run in the theaters and then come on the platform 8 weeks later, right? Nothing changes there. So it'll be a question of demand and supply also from both sides, both from the producer side, if they're able to release the film and if they see the theatrical business bounce back, and the OTT players to see how much do they want to pay for that content. Because clearly they're not buying the most expensive content. Otherwise, we would have probably seen Suryavanshi and the likes of Suryavanshi on an OTT platform by now. So there is a certain type of content that can only play in the theaters based on the subscriber numbers that the OTT platforms have. And that's the way it's going to pan out, according to me.
So before
if I may add, just to
go ahead.
Sorry, if I may add just to Ashish's point, I think one of the key fallouts of this entire pandemic has also been the fact that we've seen India is anyway an underscreen market. We've got about 9,000 odd screens, and with this pandemic, we've got 1,000 of them unfortunately shut down. So to Ashish's point, that when we have content, even though we might have enough content to put it out, but we don't have enough Fridays. And the point is that because the number of screens are limited, the window for each film to be actually visible is very, very limited because of the volume of films. We make close to 1,800 films a year. And with the number of screens. So I think one of the things that we really need to focus on, especially for if you're looking at a economic growth and recovery of our business, is to ensure that we grow the screens systematically, because without the screen growth, if you compare it to US, India is at about, say, 7 screens per million. But when you look at a market like US, it's at about 110 screens per million, and China's at 65 screens per million. So China has about 65,000 to 70,000 screens. US has about 55,000 screens. We've got 8,000 screens. So I think that is one of the bottlenecks for us and a challenge for us as we get into our recovery model.
Excellent point. Not enough Fridays and shrinking shelf space, more content getting funneled through limited number of weeks and screens. A very quick question to actually all three of you before I go to Vikram is Vivek, Ashish, and Dilip, is the role of incentives in making your decision. How important is it for you to make a decision for your films on arriving at where you want to shoot it? As you know, the film industry is a champion services sector initiative, and what we are hoping is that we get that initiative back on track, so that more and more films come to India. As Dilip said, they're just waiting to come. So will the role of incentives matter in this whole process? Let's start with Dilip then, and then come to each one of you.
Yeah, it's a very important question, actually. Every time we, come with a big production, whether it's a big or small, they always ask, what are the incentives? Are there any rebates or incentives, tax back or anything like that, because there are a lot of other countries, whether it's Canada or South Africa or certain places where have a lot of tax breaks and stuff. India is the only country, and we always try to convince them as the dollar value that you come to India via, like, you know, the crews are reasonably priced, the locations and everything. But every country, every film company, they come to India, their first and foremost question these days, particularly for last 5 years, is there any incentive? Because, you know, all these big productions, whichever the country they go, I mean, either they have a special treaty for their particular film, like Tenet had with Eastern Europe and stuff, because how much money they're bringing to the country. So they expect and they hope that there's some kind of incentive, government trying to give back to them, bringing this kind of creating such a large employment. Like on Tenet, we had almost like 2,000 people employed on the film for a you know, a substantial period of time. Similarly, for this Disney one, we were like trying to employ almost 3,000 people, so on a period of like 4 or 5 months. So there's a large amount of money they come with, and they really hope and they expect the countries, and it will really make a lot of difference that we have some kind of incentive from the state government, from the center, and in any different way. Like, of course, we have to be very film friendly and set example what we did for the Tenet and how seamless it was, and, you know, with all the agencies coming together stuff. But getting incentive will be another kind of a step towards bringing these films to India, and they will look at more positively rather than going to other countries. Because please note that not all the films which come here has the India centric stories. They also, like, say, happen to come to India because A, cheaper, or the story can be anywhere else. So what brings them to India is particularly if there's some kind of incentive or tax break or anything like that. So it's very important. And I think if we move in the direction, it will be helpful for bringing these big productions in.
So beyond the dollar-rupee arbitrage, Ashish, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, incentives are really a very important component of planning a film now. That goes without saying. And I can give you a couple of examples. While I was at Yash Raj, there was a film called New York, which was essentially had to be shot in New York. Obviously, clearly the title was New York, based in New York. But at that time, New York didn't have an incentive. So we actually went and shot the film in Philadelphia because Pennsylvania had an incentive. So we shot for 10 days in New York, took the master shots, but the actual shooting of the film happened in Philly. You know, so that's the way we planned. And luckily, Kabir, who was the director, and Adi obviously creatively was helping the project as a producer, they planned the film in such a way that the people could not actually realize that the film was actually not shot in New York that much, but shot in Pennsylvania. Similarly, for Dhoom 3, when we were planning a shoot, again, it was a very expensive film. We had to plan it, and we went and shot it in Chicago because Chicago had a 30% rebate at that time, and it kind of had all the other requirements that the film required in terms of locations and action backup, crew flying in from LA for the SAG team, and, you know, all of that. So it definitely plays a key role. And not to forget UK and the way UK has been doing with rebates. Any big film that you see, and this is not for Yash Raj, I'm just saying generally, whenever you see a big star starring in a film who's taking top dollar for his fee as his fee, those films end up in UK for the simple reason that you get a rebate on the fee of the actor. So, and hence a lot of the films are being shot in UK right now. Coming back to the point that was being made earlier by Dilip regarding the cost, Thailand also has a rebate. Let's not forget that. So it's not a very expensive country to shoot in, but they also have a 15% rebate. You know, so from that point of view, it's really important for India to kick in a rebate if they want international shoots to come regularly to us. And within India, a state like Uttar Pradesh has a rebate, due to which a lot of the local films are going to Uttar Pradesh just to, get those 2 crores back. So it plays a very big role in planning your film and your production.
I might add that the new Thailand policy is even more attractive. If you've not read it, you should. We have a platform, creativefirst.film, where a lot of these things you can at any point in time go and latch on and get the information. Vivek, any points before I go to Vikram?
I think, no, absolutely. I think nothing much to add. Dilip and Ashish are production experts, and obviously their word is absolutely final as far as this is concerned. Because, like a child loves chocolate, every producer loves incentives. I think the point is that nobody says no to money, right? At the end of the day,
I think we lost.
Where they also make it easy. So I think along with incentives, it's not just. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Apologies. Uday?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, apologies. So my point is that it's not just the incentives, it's also the ease of ability to be able to get that incentive in that market. It's also the crew that is available there locally to be able to provide it to you. Fiji does offer a huge incentive, but the travel, again, huge, is large with availability of crew. So I think you got to keep in mind all of these things before you finally decide on a location. But to answer in short, that incentives do definitely play a role in deciding where producers will shoot next.
Thank you for that. I think that nicely brings it up to Vikram, because ease of shooting, no one better than you. Take it away, Vikram.
Thank you there. And can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you there. And of course, thank you to the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce and the SCPC for having me in such a stellar panel. I want to first talk about the economy and our contribution to the economy. So when you ease filming in India, or you ease filming for that matter in any country, there's a lot of economic impact. So just to give you, throw some numbers, we've given 115 films since June 2016. That's when the FFO actually took charge of facilitating filming permission. So 115 international projects were approved for filming in India. We have data for 68 which have completed production. And that data shows that the economic spend in India towards production has been roughly around 402.49 odd crores, and over 29,000 people have gotten jobs. What is also fascinating is that in that period, around 11 odd co-productions were officially recognized under treaties. So India has 15 treaties signed with different countries from various parts of the world, and 11 odd films were given clearance under they were recognized under that official treaty, and they too have had very significant contribution. And I was looking at those numbers. Out of those 11, approximately, we have numbers for 5, and that shows around 800 people employed and around 35 odd crores brought into the economy. So there is serious amount of contribution that the Film Facilitation Office has made. But I want to go back a little bit and talk about how we've been able to kind of create this ecosystem, and of course the kind of how relevant we were during the pandemic. And especially, we have 2-3 very leading people from the film business here who would, I'm sure, of course, Dilip is very familiar, but I take this opportunity through this panel to address Vivek and, of course, Ashish and all the other filmmakers who tuned in. So the Ministry of Information Broadcasting set up the Film Facilitation Office at the National Film Development Corporation to primarily ease filming in India, to promote India as a filming destination. And in 2018, we launched the web portal, which is ffo.gov.in and ffo.gov.in. And I would like all the filmmakers, domestic as well as online producers, to kind of log in, and because that is the single repository of filmic information. And also it is the one window to your requirements. But I think there have been certain unique steps that have been taken by the ministry to facilitate filming in India. And the first thing, which really is now becoming a global brand in itself, is the film visa. 1,150 odd film visas have been issued since June of 2016. I'm talking about international projects, which include feature films, television and web series and shows, including reality TV shows and web series. The F visa has now been modified to also include location recce. And while I talk about location recce, if you were to go to the FFO and fill up your the location recce form, we will help you. And I will elaborate that a little later. What has also been, I think, going for us has been a cohesive ecosystem of nodal officers across 36 states, including union territories. 12 of them separately 12 nodal officers across key central government agencies. So these 36 nodal officers from various states, there is a common application form which is to be filled up by producers. And I would urge Ashish and Vivek to look at that common application form, fill it in, and the relevant state nodal officer will not only access it on the FFO portal, will review it on the FFO portal, but will also give you your permission in the FFO portal. You don't have to go anywhere. I also assure them, and like we have been doing with a lot of productions in the pandemic, we've been having video conferences, one-on-ones. So if you plan your production well, come to us well in advance. Don't call us later saying, please help us, to get this and get that. Come to us early. We will ensure that you will have ease of filming and ease of collecting your incentives. There are 17 state governments that give incentives for domestic as well as regional. Of late, we at the FFO have been working with Haryana to ensure that there is an incentive for international films. Madhya Pradesh has an incentive for international films. You'll be surprised, Sikkim has an incentive for international films. Odisha has an incentive for international films. There is a new narrative with it. And it is for filmmakers and the filming community to leverage that new narrative and not to crib and say, hey, there's nothing happening. I want to talk about how we are today the sole window for filming in railways anywhere. You want filming in railways? You want ease of filming in railways? You come to us. We'll tackle it for you. We have integrated our portal with the Archaeological Survey of India. You want to shoot in any heritage monument? You come through us. We will get you your permission at the FFO portal. Of course, you can go to the Archaeological Survey of India directly. Even then, even if you do go, we will support you. So when you have such a fantastic ecosystem which is there, placed by the Ministry of Information Broadcasting, leverage it. I talked about the common application form. I also want to talk about what the portal does and how it is relevant. You have COVID guidelines, which we have kind of made policies with the Ministry of Information Broadcasting. We have worked with N number of states. It won't be fair for me to name anybody in particular to ensure that they have relevant filming guidelines. We work backwards with you there at the MPA and with the Association of Film Commissioners International to ensure that the relevant filming guidelines are implemented, and I'm happy to say that they are. If you come to our website, you will also get information on the various trade associations. Of course, that may not be relevant to the domestic filmmakers because they already know the associations, but for people like Dilip and for all the other line producers who want to bring in international films, it is completely democratized in terms of information. Also, I would say that, the fact is that we have a dashboard. Just like how when you go on to income tax, you go on a passport, you have a dashboard created for you. And that dashboard allows you the flexibility of filming anywhere in India, including location recce. Uday, I'll spend just 2 more minutes on talking about how we improvise things during the pandemic, because that was a real challenge to us. You'll be happy to know that even during the pandemic, we have been actually pushing for filming in India. So in Cannes 2020, we were there all across. We had a brilliant tie-in with a website with a web portal called Sinando, where all the filmmakers have to be registered if you're participating in Cannes. There was a fantastic, advertising campaign that we ran with them. We worked with all the trades, be it Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Screen International, the Indian trade magazine called Pickle, to kind of push that in. The NFDC, of which I'm an integral part of, took 5 films for co-production funding. I'm sorry, they were work in progress films, and that was in 2020. In 2021, NFDC pushed it further, and there were 7 titles which were from the Film Bazaar's co-production market, which were showcased one day in Cannes. And this was in league with Rotterdam Film Festival and Gothenburg and all these guys. So there was a serious initiative to say that there is a narrative in India, pandemic or no pandemic, you come to us, we will help you film. But come to us early, just like Dilip did. Share your script with us. We're in dialogue with a big Tamil film. You know what happens with that is that we call last minute, you know, the Air Force is not giving us permission. Guys, what were you doing? This has been made by the Ministry of INP. It is for ease of filming. If you're not going to leverage it, there's nothing we can do. I mean, we're crying ourselves from the top of the roof, saying, take advantage of this. Take advantage of our integration with 36 state nodal officers. I can assure you, from Nagaland to Pondicherry and up Jammu and Kashmir, your film won't be stuck. But come to us early. Share your scripts with us early. Take us into confidence. Make us your partner in this whole filming value chain, because we are an integral part of that value chain. And you've seen the economic contribution that we've made. We're excited, and I can assure Dilip, I can assure Ashish and Vivek that we will work with you and we will ensure, because you know the fact is that you have a very, very proactive Ministry of Information Broadcasting. We had fantastic meetings in Delhi. I've just come in from Delhi with the Archaeological Survey of India. We want to do workshops with them. You've been an integral part. Dilip has been an integral part of those workshops. We want to do workshops with the railway guys. We want to do workshop with the DGCA. We're talking to them about how drone filming can be made more easy. And that narrative that I talk about, you'll be delighted to know that for drone operators, and for flying drones, there's a green zone, there's a red zone, there's a yellow zone. In the green zone, no permissions asked. And the people that I met were so proactive. So there's a new narrative. It's for filmmakers to leverage it. We are here, we are going nowhere. Pandemic or no pandemic.
I think that's music to my ears. And I think Dilip will second that. He's living proof of what benefit he got by working with you. I think there's true spirit of partnership. I think you've thrown the gauntlet at the industry. Your hand is already extended. We need to reach out and grab it. And absolutely. I would get the whole industry to kind of rally behind and say that, look, here is within this whole edifice that we have these kind of bright spots where you can actually see a difference being made by, you know, just the simple process of easing films, connecting you with the right people. You don't have to go anywhere. You just have to go to the FFO portal. And I think Vikram will do the rest.
Absolutely. But I just want to say, you know, with the learning that Ashish has, with the learning that Vivek have, and they're both thought leaders in the industry, you know, I've had one-on-one meetings with them, and I know that they're ever helpful, you know, to kind of motivate us and to kind of push it. I think, you know, I'm addressing the filmmakers at large because Ashish and Vivek have a solid ecosystem behind them. And I'm happy to be kind of, again, you know, told by Ashish as well as Vivek and Dilipji, you know, as to what, and of course you've played such a stellar role in helping the FFO. So we're here.
Well, I must, I must definitely second that the difference I've seen in the last 3 years, what FFO has done with my personal experience, whether it was Tenet or whether it was like recently with this Disney project, it was right from the location visas, you know, it was just, we were coming out of the first wave, and our office in London, Disney office, was very, very reluctant that how it's going to help and will they be put to 14 days quarantine or whatever. But FF office, with the help of the local Rajasthan noodle office, made it very easy for people not to be in quarantine. Of course, we had to take all the, you know, COVID protocol in place and, you know, all the tests and all of that. But it gave the confidence to the filmmakers who were coming from abroad, and we did our scout seamlessly with the permission granted by FFO, and what Vikramji is saying, that it is absolutely done the way it's supposed to. And as he's saying that we got all of our crew, we did 3 scouts with the full permission, all coordination with the railway office, coordination with the archaeological department. We were in Jaisalmer, we were in Jaipur and all these places. And everything was put in place with all the meetings. We had great meetings in Delhi. So I'm very impressed with all the system. Now it looks like very seamless and well organized. The people, all these, you know, producers who shot all over the world, they come and they get the confidence that how well it can be organized. So I really appreciate all the efforts been put by FF office in making, you know, ease of filming in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilipji. You've been a part of our mentoring team, and I continue to be mentored by you. Thank you for all your help and guidance and inputs that you've given us to, you know, form this ecosystem. We couldn't have done this on our own, and of course under the guidance of the Ministry of Information Broadcasting. So
no, thank you very much. It was fantastic, and we feel it because we bring and we have so much of pressure and so much of demands. Like similarly, got, this, whether it's a helicopter, DGCA, a gun license for all these like big films come with a lot of demands. And to meet those demands is not easy unless until the government machinery is behind it. And FOF is behind it. It's virtually impossible to get the work done. But we know now, and we've seen practically for the last 3.5 years, that how easy it's become. And of course, apparently we have to first, come with the right paperwork, meet you on time, and the things become easy. So thank you.
So with that, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If there are any questions, I think we might have time for one question or two. If there are none, we would like to call this a wrap and close this session here.
Sir, I can circulate the questions over the mail, please.
Okay. So I think the questions will go to individuals, and IACC will send them to you. With that, we call the session to an end. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Uday. Thanks,
you.
everyone. Good to see everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Stay safe.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Stay safe.